Okay. So, I hope you enjoyed Ivan's demo. I think that's a really great app he's built, and I think it's something which I really like as well from a security perspective. I think it's something which really helps build a culture of security. I'll just wrap up on how you can build your own app like this. In case you haven't heard today, we actually just announced, I'll show you before I start, we've announced a Cloudflare Developer Funds. If this is something you're interested in, we do have a $100 million fund available in collaboration with some partners in private capital on how you can build a product around Cloudflare Apps, and we can help you on that front. So, building an app, building with Cloudflare Apps. So, Cloudflare Apps, as you've seen, it's a way we have on the Cloudflare network. We have 6 million websites. The Cloudflare Apps platform allows you to ship that code to those users and give them the option to install it. It allows you to monetize what you make as well through our billing platform. And it's simple, easy, and safe for website users as well. So the installation process of an app itself looks like this. You click on the Apps tab. We've launched only today, but there's a good list of apps which are available there. You can find one, you can search for one there, and you can install it. Now, when you go in, you can preview. You can effectively preview the app whilst you make configuration changes. So here I'm inputting my my email. You can do other things around there as well, or whatever configuration options are exposed by the plugin developer. When I go to install it, you should. Well, I think I changed the color first. It's always odd watching myself do these things after the fact. I always forget, how slow I am. But, yeah. There we are. So I click install, and that's pushed then to my. That'll be pushed to my app, to my site itself. So. There we are. So when someone goes to my site with this app installed, they get that pop-up. Similarly, there are some apps which have which are location dependent, so which may not necessarily appear in as a modal. We do have a really nice location picker as well. There, you can go ahead and select where you want to put something and fill in all the other values. And also, we do have the option to preview in a new window as well. Excellent. Yeah, and there we are. That's the donation button put on my site, and it's really easy for website users to use. We have a large variety of websites and website owners with a variety of skill sets. So Cloudflare Apps really can appeal to a really wide range of audiences, as say 6 million websites, which is really significant. Yes, so with regards to our review process, what we do is we try and be very collaborative with the developer. So when you submit your app to us, we will actually engage in a two-way conversation with you and discuss your app and say, hey, I think this JavaScript function is a bit insecure. Can we fix it this way? And you may be able to say, I've done it this way, and then we'll be able to come back and suggest something. So you'll be speaking to a developer as we go through this review process. We try and be as collaborative as possible, and you will be in contact with an engineer instead. So you'll really have an understanding of what's going on that front as well. Mm-hmm. So the assets themselves are bundled in with the app, With regards to API calls, I'll talk about how we handle hooks in a second. They are kind of routed through a Cloudflare network, so things like OAuth authentication are handled on that front. When we talk about things in reverse as well, so there is, of course, a problem of ensuring validation on, say if we're talking about OAuth, you want to, or even some hook going back to an origin, you want to make sure it's actually from an installed user, and we do have HMAC authentication on that front as well. And all the domains for things like API traffic, if they flow through us, they will be on a Cloudflare controlled domain as well. And we do have around-the-clock support teams. If something does come up, we can pull apps, but we've gone through the steps to ensure that isn't a problem. But we do have those kind of integrity checks in place. The heart of an app is effectively a JSON file called install.json. And it determines what styles and scripts are used, what options are exposed on that front, what happens when you preview it, so with regards to preview handlers, and hooks, which I just touched on recently, so how we securely communicate data in this context, so we're not just wildly throwing things off to unknown servers. So the resources attribute, when you package your app together, you'll effectively have some JavaScript files or some style sheets, and resources attributes puts them all together. There's more documentation on all of this and exactly how this all comes together on cloudflare.com/apps. So I won't go too much into detail with this. I just want to really show what's possible on this front. And then there's an options attribute. So the location picker I demonstrated earlier, you can inject that in as well using a location type of option. And then you can also do things like have a list with whatever you want to populate, some help information as well. And there's far more different types of operations attributes on that front. Preview attributes as well. This is where when a change is made, you can trigger various functions to run. By default, if you don't include this in your app, we will just rebuild the app as a whole whenever you want to, when someone re-previews. But this can make the whole process a lot more efficient if it's something you want to implement. Hooks, this is an example from Discuss. So Discuss is a comment system. They want to use this for, say, OAuth authentication. So they want to say, okay, there's a bit of JSON which declares what behavior happens when. So they can block a request if someone tries to access a particular event. They can also access analytics in a non-blocking way, authentication, customization, even down to the installation process. And all of these are served as HMAC signed requests. So you can be so you can be sure they're coming from an app. So I'll just jump into a quick demo app I've put together briefly. So effectively, I've just written quick install.json file here. I've got a single JavaScript file in apps.js. Just two options here, so a location object field, and also a style option, which is a drop-down, so icon, orange, blue logo, and I've defaulted here. This enum can be whatever, it just happens that the images on the server were named as image 1, image 2, image 3, but you could put these down to any type of string you want, and I've put some help text in there as well. The app.js I've put together here is very simple. It's literally, I check, the first if statement is just there to check if it's not a far too old browser, and I've gone and pulled in the options from Cloudflare Apps, can create an element in where I need it there. So wherever the installation location is, I can just go ahead and immediately create an element in that position, and I can fill the HTML as I want there, and put in options as I see fit. The only other thing is the last few lines, just make sure the DOM is fully loaded before I do anything. All very basic JavaScript. You can make this as complicated or as simple as you want. You can implement even a billing system into here using our service. But when it comes to enabling this, it becomes very easy for me. So I go to cloudflare.com/apps. I can go to my dashboard. I can create a Cloudflare app. select where my files are, and I can start editing the app code, and I will see a preview as it loads up here. So this app here, it should just inject an image with a link of a Cloudflare button. So there we are. I can insert that quite simply there. I can choose where to place it. And the style attribute I put in earlier, so I want to change that to blue. I can make that blue there as well. And that's it. Then when I'm ready to go, I can go ahead and create an app, add all the information, and then when you click submit for approval, that's when you go into our conversation thread with one of our engineers, and we will have a discussion with you about the app itself. Yes, absolutely. So it's very, the documentation gives you a very straightforward instruction. So let me give you an example actually of an app which is monetized here. So we have one we created for April Fool's Day called Australia Mode. Effectively what it does, it just flips all the images around. So let's go and pick an article here. And there's a plans option here. So you can pay without making things too complicated. So even when you want to communicate with the backend server, you still have that HMAC signed request, so you can validate that a user is on a particular plan as well. Go for it. Yes, I can't remember the exact percentage, but you keep the lion's share. It's a fairly small amount. Sorry. Yes, so 70-30, 70 for the developer. Yeah, thanks, Alonso. Go for it. So we do have, I'll show you this in our documentation, we are quite restricted on what we do in terms of security. So things like pulling in jQuery will tend to push people not to do that because obviously jQuery is quite bloated. And that's not necessarily needed all the time, but we will have restrictions on how external JS is pulled in. I pulled that up for you there. It all should be declared an install.json file, and I think when you go through the review process, we try and push everyone to use it through a CDN, which is Cloudflare sponsored effectively. So yeah, we'll try and manage it on that front. But as I say, the review process is very, very collaborative. So our engineers will try and accommodate whatever's going on, and we'll just try and suggest just more of a consultative approach. And how did you find it? Did you go through a review process at all, or?
Yes. There were a couple of rounds to the review process. They were quite thorough. They found a security vulnerability in my code, which I'm not ashamed to admit, and they were quite helpful in that sense. Also, they tried to look not only at the code but the application itself, and then said, if you present your application in this way, maybe you'll engage with your audience a bit better. So they were quite. I don't know if that's because I was one of the first early adopters, so they're going to give everybody the same treatment. But I was quite happy with the process. So, did they do well?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I think with regards to how things will be going forwards, we will still maintain that kind of consultative approach. We've made sure we have a review process which does scale and give the same kinds of assurance around things like security and make sure we support developers. Go for it. Mm-hmm. So our data, I think with regards to how we handle things like API calls, there are various requests we will proxy through, but when we send off those requests, in a lot of cases there is we do try and push people to push them through Cloudflare proxy domains, but we have got quite tight data protection process. I can fill you in a little more on that later around how we handle that at a corporate level. But yeah, we do have quite a large set of enterprise customers, so we have developed a quite rigorous data protection policy. So I can touch on that a little later with you, I think. Mhm. Excellent. Yes, I can definitely fill you in a little more on that later. But yeah, anyone else got any questions, or should we have some food now? Yeah, go for it. So, yeah, so we expect the developer to maintain the app. We expect the developer to communicate with the when there are questions raised. Exactly. Yes, so we will review at each stage when an update is pushed out. Yeah, so the assurance is consist. So our assurance is I won't go into specifically around the contractual level. I think, but I think around how we will handle that with our customers, we do give an assurance that they go through a security review process. When, for example, if our enterprise customers want to install these apps, and the agreements around there, they're very bespoke, so I won't touch specifically on the contractual assurances of customers, I think. Go for it. It's pushed out to all users instantly. It's we will start serving that from our edge, basically. So it's one of the benefits of a user not having to install something necessarily on their origin. We have those dependencies managed for you. Excellent. Right, should we get some food now? Excellent. Right. Thank you. I should also say thanks to Ben, who's been great on the AV today, and also I think Natalie's out there at the moment, but she's the one who's kind of put together all the food and all the drink and all the rest. So if you see any of them, be sure to give them a pat on the back. Yeah. Thank you.